about why this book worked based on went back and just not where but who went back. So in the book, the black main character goes back by herself first. I think the second time she goes back, her husband goes with her, and her husband happens to be white. I didn't know this until they said it, which is some good writing right there.
Yeah, same. I
So
actually assumed her husband was black because of the very first scene.
yeah, yeah,
I don't
exactly.
want to I don't want to spoil it.
But I feel personally that it worked because he's a white man, and back in that time, white men were at the top, so you could talk to anybody like levelly, and they would actually respect you as a person as a white man. And her being a black woman, of course, that was his property, so they wouldn't try to take her, beat her without having to, things like that. And even when they did beat her, she didn't want to tell him because she didn't want him to react and get her in more trouble, which is wild. But they couldn't
Yeah.
they couldn't even be husband and wife back then because that didn't happen back then.
But on the other hand, even though they couldn't be husband and wife, what was condoned was her going to his room every night for relations,
Hmm.
and that was condoned.
Yeah.
So it was like, y'all good enough. And I feel like that's still kind of a pervasive thing in modern times as well. Is
Hmm.
like, I wouldn't date you, but I'll
Yeah.
fornicate with you.
Yeah.
And people have that thought. I myself have had that thought
Hmm.
before as well.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's kind of cringe if you really think about it. Like, I don't like you enough to date you, but I like you enough to have intercourse with you.
Yeah. That's weird. So what are your views on them going back together?
I would say that was actually one of my favorite parts.
Mm.
I would say though that I don't think that he left completely unscathed just because he was a white male,
Hmm.
because he didn't really fit into the time because his views were too progressive as well.
Yeah.
He didn't view slaves as property, and it showed.
Yeah. You could tell
Um,
he was an ally for the most part.
yeah, and man, now this makes me want to talk about something else completely, which is like
You could
allies in modern time.
dabble and take notes.
Because like in modern times, you know how we have this thing where, is this person an ally? Is this white person an ally really, or are they just like trying to be woke?
Hmm.
I keep doing air quotes. I'm gonna stop because if you're audio only, you can't hear the air quotes. But if
Hmm.
he's an ally,
Hmm.
is he actually an ally, or is he just trying to like somebody who's trying to be part of this wokeism that's happening nowadays,
Yeah.
where people are trying to like defend black people against stuff where we ain't even actually do that. Like, why you being all hype on our behalf? Like, let us.
Hmm.
If we have a problem with it, we'll let you know.
Hmm.
You don't have to go inventing problems for us. But on the other hand, you might have allies, people who actually speak out. Like, if their family is racist, they talk to them and be like, "Hey, that's not okay."
Hmm.
Stuff like that. Um, so I don't know. I feel like her husband was somewhere in the middle because
Hmm.
at times he did come across as like he fit into the times, and then
Hmm.
other times he came across as he doesn't fit into the times,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. I don't want to spoil, but I could think of a couple of examples where he said something that made her like look at him like, what are you talking about? You know?
I feel like I think I know which one you're talking about. 'Cause you told me about it. I feel like he wasn't trying to be away, but he was, since he is white, he can actually understand from the other point of view what's happening. Because
Yeah,
we wouldn't want to try to understand their point of view, but he actually could because he can see both sides. Well, he can see most of our side and more of the other side.
yeah, but that's a problem too in a way.
Hmm.
Um, is that he could see both sides, but he also can't fully understand the side that he's empathizing with.
Hmm.
And that's part of the problem because it's like, yeah, you aren't racist, or you're less racist than, because I don't ever think people could be fully not racist, but
Hmm.
you're less racist than these people in this time.
Hmm.
But then some of the stuff you're saying shows that you lack that full understanding of my situation, because
Hmm.
you aren't out there getting beat for forgetting to say yes, sir.
Yeah.
You know.
Hmm.
So, oh, what was the question? I forgot. Oh,
No,
yeah,
we
yeah.
just talking about the time. We still good. We within boundaries.
Okay.
I want
So,
to add to that and say that even though you could be of the same race, even then people have a lack of understanding of different situations and circumstances. So I feel like it starts here and it expounds, but I understand what you're talking about. No one can fully understand someone else's exact experience unless they went through the exact same thing. And that's why you have
mhm.
people that are less empathetic to black people while themselves are black people. But that's a different topic that we'll get into later as well.
Oh man, you just hit another nail on the head, man.
I'm a carpenter, man. This is what I do.
Golly, the puns. Anyway,
So tell me what you feel like a black couple would look like.
oh God, the guy will get killed almost immediately
Uh-huh.
because he gonna be trying to defend. If he's a guy who isn't a coward, he's more likely going to try and defend his woman.
Hmm.
If he's a guy who is more cowardly, he probably gonna just let whatever happen happen. Like I can't do nothing, and I gonna just let whatever happen happen.
Hmm.
Um, but I would like to assume that he would not be cowardly and he would try to defend her honor in some way.
Hmm.
So if something happened to her, like they go back, he gonna try to keep her alive at the
Hmm.
detriment to himself.
Yeah, I feel like that.
And then the woman, I feel that, and the problem with even thinking about all of this,
Hmm.
everything depends on skin color as well, like shade of skin.
Hmm.
So if they both light skin, maybe.
Yeah.
If they both dark skin,
Hmm.
the guy gonna die for sure, and the woman gonna probably get sent out to the fields.
Yeah.
And yeah. Oh well, if we go in the same context as a story,
Yeah.
I think the woman will probably have the same outcome as the main character in this story, but
Yeah.
the guy would have died.
Hmm. I feel like
What
that'll
do
be
you think?
the end of the marriage, basically, because and as I have here in my notes, like it depends on their skin tone. So if the guy is darker and she's lighter, she gonna be inside, he'll be outside. And when she's coming back to the future, he's still outside because there's no way he gonna come inside the house. And if it's the reverse, it's the exact same thing. So it's like I feel like the characters in this story had a better chance of coming back together, even though they didn't. Spoiler alert. But
Wait.
what?
I think we have to, man. F the spoilers, man. Y'all gonna hear spoilers, okay?
Well, we're gonna have tidbits of little spoilers then. So when she comes back the second time, her partner gets left in the past for 5 years. So that's what I was alluding to. So that's what I'm saying. Like they wouldn't come back together because they don't go back together at all. It's her going back because it's her story, and he just held on with her the second time to go back with her. So a black couple would have a hard time. Let's just say they went back and nobody saw them at all. Then they'll have a chance because you could be on the run and you could do what you gotta do. But if you going back in the middle of a town or a city, or you're on a farm, it's GG's game over.
Yeah, I think the mechanism for how she went back in time and got back to the present
Hmm.
would have been a big problem there because even like the husband going back with her,
Hmm.
okay, fine. No matter what race you are, you gotta go back.
Hmm.
Now, coming back to the present, like you pointed out, that's gonna be hard
Yeah.
for a black male.
Hmm.
Like the only reason that her husband could have come back to the present time is because he had more freedoms than her and he could actually be around her whenever he wanted to.
Hmm.
But if you're a black male, there's no way. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess there is some way she could be running towards you or something and you could run
Yeah.
towards her.
Like if you both in the
And
field, you could just always work together. Like always work like one
mhm,
cutting bush ahead of each other.
you could work
Yeah.
nearer to each other
Yeah.
because they might even put you in different rows and who knows how big like is an acre.
Hmm.
Acre is pretty big.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think you might be right. Generally, the black guy gonna die because he probably gonna get left back
Hmm.
several times before they finally get to come back. Or if he does come back, he gonna be maimed by the time he come back
Yeah.
from all the beatings and torture and stuff that they was doing.
Yeah. And you could be sold. Anybody, each of them could be sold at any time. That's a
And
big
then
deal
that's
too.
just
Yeah,
GG.
that's
You
why.
never coming back.
Yeah, that's why I said. Like, if that happened, then you don't know how many times you'll get sold. You don't know where it can be. There's no
Yep.
GPS. There's no even getting a letter was.
Exactly. Oh
And
my gosh.
what letter? We weren't allowed to write. So you just
But he
stuck.
could. He could write, but he wouldn't be able to get the opportunity to write.
Yeah.
Damn. What about a white woman and a black man?
Oh no, no, that's definitely GG's for him. Cause imagine just him holding on to her because they're both scared is a death sentence right there.
That may be a death sentence for her too,
Depending on the people that find them, yeah.
potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But
crazy.
the story would have played out completely different though.
Because back then women don't have as much say as men do. So like she can't even speak in his defense because they're not gonna listen. And that's a big
Yeah.
deal.
But I think overall the story would have played out different. Like she would
Yeah.
have keep coming back to save him, but it would have been like just come back. She would have never experienced any of the damage where
Hmm.
he would have felt like he needed to come back in time with her.
Yeah.
Because remember, part of the reason why he even came back in time with her was because he was trying to like help.
Hmm.
But if it was a white woman going back, he wouldn't feel a need to help. He would just be like, maybe they would just talk it out every time she come back. But he wouldn't feel a need to like try and
Yeah,
protect
yeah,
her
yeah.
because she's not really in any danger.
That's true. That's true. Hmm. What about a white couple?
I mean, this story wouldn't even make sense at that point.
Oh
They're just going
man.
back in time to relive some fun, I guess. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's true.
Well, let's do it. Let's do it two different ways. You
Hmm.
could have white people who are actually like aware of like racism and try to change like how they think about stuff
Hmm.
and treat people as human
Hmm.
beings rather than as a skin color. And then you
Yeah,
have white people who honestly don't care. Like
yeah,
and that's just the middle. And then you have the extreme where you have white people who actually look down on black people
yeah.
completely.
Hmm.
So you have those three different types. I think we should probably talk about each type and like what the experience would be like for them. Like for instance, if we have the ones who are like I don't like to use the word woke, but the more woke one,
Hmm.
you think they would try and go back and like help slaves escape, or what do you think they would do?
Maybe if they were more empathetic, let's use that word empathetic, they could go back and try to make earlier changes, I guess, to laws and things that were put in place if they could, because they'll be a lot more educated because education grew as from then to now. They'll be a lot more educated, so they could actually write things that would sway the minds, probably end things earlier, probably help them escape because there were white people who helped blacks escape. So they'll probably be one of those houses where everybody hides underneath the basement overnight or whatever. So I think they would try their best to do something to be active in history. I think the husband, spoiler alert, he actually became one of those people that did these things. I think he was well known for it. Like even like in today, like he made an imprint on history.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think definitely if I was a white person and I had the same level of empathy that I do now,
Hmm.
and I went back in time, I would definitely use whatever abilities I had to affect change. So I can
Yeah,
see that. Or if you're like middle of the road where you're like you don't hate black people, but you also don't really care what happens to them.
I feel like maybe they would finally get to see like it'll be so visceral for them to actually see it happening that they would be pushed to the more empathetic side where they'll be like, wow, this happened for 400 years and like it barely got better. And they'll probably see the same connections that we're talking about today. And they'll be like, it's not really that much different from what it was back then. And then they would probably, again, get pushed over.
Yeah, I think I agree. Or on the flip side,
Hmm.
maybe just to play devil's advocate, maybe they will go back and be like, man, this is the life. Like, I
Mm,
wish things had not changed. Like, I would love to just be at home all day, doing absolutely nothing
Hmm.
and just have people take care of my stuff, and I don't even have to pay them.
That's true. That could happen. And I felt like we talked about this where I was concerned because this book had me on a roller coaster. I was concerned that actually her husband would like assimilate into it
I
like
thought that too.
complete. I was like, please don't,
Yep,
because that's something that could
I was
happen.
thinking that.
Most movies and shows where you go back in time, you have people that are they remain the same, they become apathetic, or they actually fit in because it's part of who they are.
Yeah. Yeah, I was worried about that too. I was like, damn, like I was worried, especially when he got left back for the 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, damn, when he come back, he did come back with an accent.
Yeah.
And by the way, the person who was reading the audiobook, they did a good job
Yeah, I know.
of blending the
Everybody.
accent. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she did a good job because he had like they had people with a strong Southern accent, and then he had like a soft Southern accent. I don't know how they did that, but that was a good job.
Yeah. So,
Um,
well, then
but yeah,
that.
I thought that. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I thought that for sure after that 5 years he would have had slaves or something,
Mm-hmm.
but luckily he didn't.
Yeah. So what I just said actually fits for the last group. They just assimilate into the culture back then because that's just
Yeah,
already their mindsets.
yeah, and it's crazy too because even uneducated people, like people who were like who we would consider dumb or poor nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
they owned slaves and was making bank
Yeah.
or at least decent money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, like, if you have slaves, it doesn't matter. You could be, oh, I was about to say a political figure name,
Come
and
on,
I
man.
shouldn't do
Let's
that.
not do
But
this.
let's not do it.
Yeah.
But you could be dumb,
Mm-hmm.
white, and rich,
Mm-hmm.
and it just makes sense because you have literal slaves making money for you,
I don't
and you
want.
could make money.
No, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead. I thought you were done.
And you could make money off of slaves just having kids together, which is even more messed up.
Yeah. I was going to say that that's how most of them. I don't want to insult anybody's heritage, but that's how most of them were because they weren't really educated. They just inherited the farm or the plantation from their parents,
Hmm.
which is kind of weird. Like how, well, I like how society has changed. Well, back then, you didn't really have to do anything besides go to school, and then when you're done with school, you just inherit the plantation. So schooling back then was to get you ready to be that person. So you need to know at least math and how to write and how to read. But like
Yeah.
you didn't have to be extremely smart, and nobody expected you to be extremely smart because a lot of them were just inheriting things.